Yeah, I just pressed live. So good morning, everyone. We're live. First day of September. First, we finally ended one of the craziest trading months of my life in August with just it's insane gains from all kinds of stocks and a rally that's going to live on forever. And we wake up this morning. It seems like it's Groundhog's Day all over again. Tesla was up big this morning, and they announced a $5 billion stock offering, so that's going to be an interesting stock to follow today. It's up as much as like 8% pre-market. It's fallen a lot, but it's still up. So we'll see what happens. And then obviously the story to get to today is Zoom. They doubled their profits with expectations versus the street, and they are up 127 bucks pre-market, which is just under 40%. It's kind of reminds me of Salesforce all over again, where it's just another reminder to investors and to Wall Street that big tech isn't done, big tech isn't overvalued, and big tech is going to continue to blow away all the expectations, which we saw with Salesforce, we're seeing again in Zoom, and I'm sure we'll see it time and time again. So this morning looks like another high-flying day for the NASDAQ. I saw Penn had some positive words about them this morning. They're up pretty nice. You know, Snapchat's been ripping. They continue to be up. Everything seems to be green as far as I'm concerned when it comes to big tech. Apple, you know, Peloton, Chewy, everything's just going. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens now that we're at the beginning of a new month. Bob, does that bring any factors into the equation that were not present a week ago? Just shifts of being.
I don't think you can go off past years to figure this out anymore. I mean, September claims to always be a weak month, September, October. Historically, we've seen some big hits in the market. Whether that happens or not, again, who knows? The election is right there in front of us. I saw that there was a poll that came out yesterday that Biden's only 2 points up with the Emerson poll. So that's the tightest I've seen on the general election. So that's going to be a big factor in the next 2 months without any question. What happens with this TikTok deal? I mean, I can't figure out. People say it's imminent, but it sounds like China has to get involved somehow in deciding. So that's up in the air, but Microsoft and Walmart are acting like it's going to happen. Very crazy market. What can I tell you? Tesla, I'm short. I'm wrong. I shorted more after the close last night. My highest short is 507.70. My average is 485. I'm not doing a lot. I'm doing small amounts. I just think this thing is as crazy as any short I've seen since resorts back in the 70s, which went from, $5 to the moon and back. The difference is, this is a real company. The question is, what's the real value? And take a guess.
Yeah, it's tough to be short Tesla. I give you a lot of praise for that. Even though
they just raised, they're going to raise $5 billion. They haven't done the deal yet. They said they're going to pick different time frames to do it. They'd be crazy not to do the whole thing right here if they could get it done. That would add basically 5% to their capitalization because they're at about 93 billion at 500. The stock has come off about $30 since they announced that deal, and it's still up from yesterday.
Yeah, it's insane. And then I saw another stock that's up huge this morning is Eastman Kodak again. I don't really know why. I saw that the hedge fund D. Shaw now owns 5.2% stake in Kodak. And
If he was smart, he would have sold his 5% stake between the time they announced it and now. I mean, that stock is up huge today. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. And then I saw, and I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, I saw it wasn't actually because of the pandemic, but part of a bigger plan to just become more efficient. But Ford is planning on cutting 1,000 salary jobs in North America, and that announcement can come as soon as this week. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow. I don't think it's necessarily news that's shocking people who cover the stock, but anytime a company announces that.
It's a new CEO there, and he's going to have to reorganize, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of dead wood is always what they do. And
then, Mike, I know you've been talking about this, but I saw Walmart announced that it's launching its membership program starting September 15th to compete with Amazon's Amazon Prime, and it's going to cost $98 per year compared to $119 for Prime. And new members are also going to get a discount on gasoline, so that'll be interesting. And Walmart Plus members will need to meet a $35 minimum order in order to receive free shipping. So it's going to be interesting to follow Walmart and Amazon just to see if they can kind of close the gap on that competition. You look at them in the race to probably buy TikTok. You look at what they're doing in the e-commerce world. I got to say, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think it's pretty amazing that Walmart is hanging around in the race with Amazon. I feel like a couple of years ago, I looked at that as a race that they had no chance of even competing in. And I'm not saying that they do now, but it does seem like they have the deep pockets and the will to fight the Amazon player.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're a behemoth. Walmart's not going anywhere. Amazon can't do anything except deal with having to compete with them. They're impossible to put out of business. Amazon was hoping Walmart would make different decisions, I'm sure, but they're a huge threat. No doubt about it. I would not take Walmart's execs have been phenomenal. The way that Jet acquisition was absolutely genius a few years ago that no one ever talks about. It set them up for e-commerce. It set them up to be relevant in every space. I don't own Walmart yet. I'm probably going to be dumping my Amazon and just putting it in Walmart for the short term, at least. I think that's an interesting rotation to think about. I'm selling all of my NVIDIA today. I sold some of my Google yesterday. I'm prepping here for just being smart and not stupid with some of these run-ups.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that some of these high-priced stocks are getting extra push from the concept that, Apple and Tesla split. This is going to happen with my stock. I'm buying more. And if that doesn't happen to some of these stocks, they're probably going to have a nice fall. I mean, Amazon, people must think they're going to split. It's up again today. You would think on the news of Walmart, it would be down. And it's up.
Yeah, it's kind of could be a combination of people thinking it's going to split, and then also looking at the extended runs that a lot of the similar names in their arena have gone on. And even if they don't split, you look at what's happened with Tesla, you look at what happens with NVIDIA, Salesforce, Apple, and then you're looking at an Amazon, and you're thinking about all those 37.50 price targets that people were putting on it 2-3 months ago. It hasn't done a lot.
Amazon's relevant. Their run-up is for good reason. I look at NVIDIA, and that's all well and good. They're phenomenal. They're at this point overbought. It's actually
I think they're at a conference tomorrow to talk about a new chip.
They just can't go down. It's unreal, which has been great. Don't get me wrong. It's just at some point this stock is going to come back under 500 and we'll wake up and it's 20% down. These things have to let off some steam. So that's why
even like a Netflix, can decide to split. So there's a whole slew of names that if they wanted to play that game.
Yeah, they could split and then short-term momentum and then it falls more. Like that's what people, I think, misconstrue with a split. It doesn't mean, this gives it way more room to run now. It just gets more people, you know, with
the reality though, you take Tesla, the run up there, let's face it, they just raised, you know, if they raise $5 billion off of this split move, then it paid off for them. So if other companies see that, they're going to try the same thing.
Yeah, but like we talked about, I think it's important, like you brought up yesterday, Dad, it's great for knowing you own more shares as a holder, but I think it's, if anything, it's a great time if you hold a stock that's splitting to after that short ride of momentum, like Apple right now, it's time to wonder, okay, what's the play? Sell a little Apple or sell some call options for?
I agree 100%.
I've already sold 25 out of my shares. I had 175. I own 150. I'm thinking about selling another 25 shares just to be smart.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of this stuff, I've sold a little Amazon, sold a little Google. I know the capital gains add up, but I'd rather that and have some money on the sidelines than just being stuck with headlights right in front of me, just bulldozing me over in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
the hardest part is selling stock, raising the cash, and then not doing anything with the cash until.
Oh, I'm not sitting on the sidelines with it. I'm just
there's
putting
nothing wrong with sitting on the sidelines.
Like airlines, take for example. Like I'm just saying, when you've run hot on something, like an NVIDIA is a prime example. Dan, you got me in on that 6 months ago. I invested, I think, 15 grand and profited 6. So you reach a point, it's like, okay, sure, I wish I owned $1 million of this at the time, but either way, you have to be smart. And you're right, you can't just have it on the sidelines, or that's how you lose money.
I was going to
down stocks that are going to come up.
I was saying the opposite, that in my opinion, one of the worst things you could do, and one of the challenges when you sell a stock, is to then take that profit and sell NVIDIA and tomorrow dump it into Delta, instead of selling NVIDIA and sitting back and waiting for a moment where it's like, oh, damn, hell yeah, I'm buying stock. What just happened? And look at how my patience played off. Because I think a lot of people will look at a stock, see that it's gone up 30, 40, 80, 500%, whatever it might be, sell it, even though that stock's nowhere near done. There's a reason it's going up. Then buy something without being patient that might not be going up. And then before you know it, you're selling out of big winners and just switching that money into stocks that just suck. I
look at that as not stocks that suck. You pick the right sectors. And like when I think of travel right now, it's obvious where we're heading with whether it's a vaccine or not needing a vaccine, the election being over. People are roaring to get back into travel mode. And these airlines are beaten to a pulp. Whether the business model is great or not, they're not going under a couple of these guys. It's a great value now.
Well,
I think that makes a good point that unless you have corporate trips coming back, which is...
You do, 100%. You think business travel is not coming back? People want to get away from the home.
I don't think it's coming back soon enough where you're going to see the moves that you're talking about where it's like, oh, these airlines are coming back with a vengeance. I think you're 3 or 4 years away from corporate travel really making a full cycle coming back.
There's a reason people golf. It's to get away.
But there are businesses that have already canceled all travel for 21. Kathy, Moms, for example.
Mom, that's a different sector. Let's not even get into that. Those people are not.
I have a friend who works for IBM.
That's not what I'm talking about. These big bankers, I can tell you right now, these people are chomping at the bits to go see clients and have fun.
You hear what I don't want to see them.
I have a buddy who is, in his early 50s, late 40s, who up until this pandemic traveled 4 days a week for IBM and no longer is traveling for work, and they're not bringing it back at all. It's just completely axed out now.
I don't see that sticking.
You know what? These corporations have realized how much money they're saving by not having a travel budget.
So I guess the divorce lawyers, what stock is that? Because when you think about people being around each other too much with all this stuff, people being locked in, it's like, okay, we're heading into a different world. And there's no way that sticks. The way the world is, no way that sticks.
I think you'll get some travel back. It probably takes 5 years before it comes back to the levels it was at before the pandemic.
Damn. So domestic violence is just going to go through the roof when you think about it. So what stocks can you play to combat that?
Police security companies.
So that guns, what's that gun stock? What? That one we were talking
Smith
about?
and Wesson.
Yeah. And they split up, I know, into two different companies. So that's something.
Domestic
no,
violence.
seriously, though. The unrest, that is a great stock to look at. I was in and out of it, made a quick buck. What's the ticker on that?
Yeah, but I think you're segueing into a completely different thing. When you're talking about business travel, those aren't the problems with security and guns.
No, I'm saying if they're not letting people back to normalcy, there's twofold with that. Guns for unrest with the world and guns for...
Well, that's the story from 6 months ago.
No, it's not. It's not from 6 months ago. That's not going anywhere. Look at how much gun sales have gone up.
Well, part of
the reason Biden's done is because he wanted to get rid of the Second Amendment, which kind of shot him completely out of the race a few weeks ago. But that is a great stock to look at.
But the reality is he didn't want to get rid of the Second Amendment.
Well, yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking. He doesn't know his name. But either way, Dad, that's a big thing to look at for the world we're in that we haven't talked about on this show at all.
We've talked about it on the show. We haven't circled back to the gun stocks in a few weeks, but
there are great ones to think about, though. When you look at how many more people have bought guns the last few months, it's on a whole nother level. People that don't even know how to use a gun. And, then you ask yourself, how are they getting trained? What are stocks that we could take advantage of for people going to be trained on shooting at these gun ranges?
The interesting thing about Smith and Wesson is it's come off a lot from the high. It ran up to 27.79 and it's come all the way down to 18 and a quarter.
Well, keep in mind that's split up though.
SWBI.
Didn't they though break up their company?
I don't know any of the details about it.
Wow. And then, Dad, I know we were talking about Rocket a little bit yesterday. Rocket Mortgages, they have, I think their earnings tomorrow. And I saw, that stock's been having a wild ride, going up and down multiple times in a day. I saw it yesterday, and the Twitter world blew up about this, that someone bought like about $40 million worth heading into close, right at the closing bell. I don't know if that means anything.
Well, it's not about that. As the close was really not a good close. So I know.
Well, if you saw when they bought the stock, it caused it to jump about 25 cents during them cycling through and buying it. But yeah, it didn't really do much. And people are saying that buyer must have beaten the stock down to 28 to get the best price they can. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, if you look at what the stock did yesterday at the close, the volume at the last few minutes was only about, I think the closing volume was about 150,000.
I saw there was one tick right before it closed that was like 1.8 million shares.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm not seeing it on here.
Yeah, now I'm not seeing it on here either. I saw it yesterday when I was looking.
It could have been a bad tick. It could have been someone did 180,000 and it went through wrong. I don't know. I mean, maybe there was a big buyer, but it didn't act like it in the last half hour that there was a big buyer around.
It acted like the opposite.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'll tell you this, after a new issue comes out, it's pretty rare for the earnings to be worse than expected. So, tomorrow it should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the stock trades on a lot of volume, almost as much as the big boys do, like the Apples of the world. So even today, it's going to be crazy.
It's definitely a good trading stock, and it's worth keeping in front of you. Yesterday, I sold a bunch of financials. I know I've been really strong on having the banks in my positions. I still own JP Morgan and a little Goldman Sachs, but these stocks do not act well. And And in a correction, I'm thinking I could buy them all down 10% from where they are. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but they just don't act right.
I'll tell you
So
what was.
that's a sign of a sell-off coming, probably.
Well, maybe that, or I threw in the towel right at the last minute. Both are
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, I thought you made an interesting point yesterday when I brought up play again, and that's that along with, you could throw the banks into this conversation, but these recovery stocks, they almost seem like they keep having these dead cat bounces where they're just immediately brought back down. They've all done it 4, 5, 6 times, or that it's like it reminds me of a dying fish gasping for air, where like you think it's done, and then every few minutes at the last minute it comes back with a vengeance and starts scrolling around. There's a lot of stocks that keep doing that, and I don't know if each time it's them coming back to life or if it's them just having a little bit of breath of air before they continue to die. It's really tough to tell. Like I was thinking about Dave and Buster's last night, and obviously they have a lot of locations in cities, but they're also pretty big with college kids going to Dave and Buster's, like within 30 miles of college towns. Keep hearing how coronavirus are spiking like crazy in all these college towns. So I'm starting to wonder if a company like that, and don't get me wrong, like they're already worse off because of the pandemic and they haven't bounced back at all. But I'm starting to question the recovery story when I'm seeing that young people are getting the coronavirus. It's not necessarily going away anytime soon.
Well, what I would like to know about it, Dave and Buster's, is what's their break even per store in occupancy? And are they able to even be more than 50%? And are they even getting 50% in the stores that are open?
I don't know how you can even like a stock like that right now at all. Like that doesn't even, out of 100 stocks, that's not one on my radar of even thinking about.
Well, the only reason is there's a handful of stocks that just seem like if there is a vaccine and there's at all a feeling like things are going to go way back to normal, there's certain stocks that have been basically priced like they're going out of business. And if they don't, and then you look at how they were performing before this happens, not even just their stock, but like the fundamentals, their financials, there's certain companies that were doing well and that were in good shape. And you can kind of imagine a world where if we kick the virus to the curb, they do come back to normalcy. And that company is definitely in that category. Planet Fitness is another company that's in that category. These were companies that were doing really, really well. They were popular among consumers and among spenders. And, I think there's definitely a lot of room to the upside if there's feelings.
There's also room for people's habits to be done permanently, where they've changed their ways, and it doesn't take more than a couple months for that to take place. And some of these companies could be in deep shit when you think about it. Like even when you think about a play, what's their situation like with their rent of all these places that they own? Do they own all of the land? Like there's a lot that goes into that they might not be sitting pretty at all here. And to have to wait for a vaccine for a company to start making money again, that's problematic.
Well, yeah, they're definitely not sitting pretty. That's why their stock's down so much year over year.
They might be going bankrupt. Who knows?
I mean, there's a chance a company like that does go bankrupt.
I look at play as a prime candidate for bankruptcy. I would not play them personally.
Like AMC is another company in that category.
Yeah, I hate all them. Those stocks just scream at me, stay the hell away.
Yeah, but there are also stocks that with a vaccine, you see them up 30%.
If it comes soon enough, or they're running out of time and they're running out of cash.
You hear what Kevin O'Leary says about the AMCs of the world. He says, bulldoze them down.
Yeah.
Time to move on.
Seriously.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Dave and Buster's in the same category as AMC. Like, obviously, movie theaters don't need to exist at all. You're seeing companies like Disney test out their own direct-to-consumer distribution models. Everyone's got their streaming services. But when you look at a place like Dave and Buster's that combines video game play with adult bar, like it's a cool environment. It's almost like a Topgolf type setting that caters to the world we're in now, not the one we were in 20 years ago.
Seems like they have a lot of stuff that is expensive that could be replaced with technology.
Full disclosure, I don't own any Dave & Buster's right now. They're just a name I look at every day, and on days where recovery names seem to be popular, that stock is always a great trading stock.
Can we go back to Kodak for a second? It's up another $2 since we spoke about it 10 minutes ago.
Wow, up 71% right now.
Trading at 10 and a quarter off of a story that, maybe the guy bought it on the way up to 60 and he's still in it. Who the hell knows?
I don't even understand the story. Some guy owns 5%.
Yeah, he's a hedge fund who people respect. So, for whatever reason, he bought it.
I wonder, yeah, it's so insane. And then, Fiverr is another stock I'm just going to touch on real quick because I know we bring them up all the time. Keep an eye on Fiverr. They're $3 away from their all-time highs. They've definitely been in this interesting consolidation period. Dad, what do you think of the chart? I mean, I know when I brought them up a few days ago, there's no doubt this chart has run hot. It's stretched thin. It reminds me of Twilio, which went way higher than this. And then just when I'm looking at the chart, I'm wondering, is this level that it's been kind of consolidating in for the last month, is it about to break through it? And you look at that.
It's kind of a chart that you either have to wait for a breakout, or I don't know how you play it.
Like 120, like 126.50 is.
Well, that's the all-time high, but maybe the last one, 124.35 for a move to 126.50,
which it could easily do today.
Yeah, is there good news out today?
No, but this is a stock that gets no news and no one ever talks about it. It trades on light volume, and they're like if you look it up, you will not find much about Fiverr. It's gotten some upgrades over the months, but you never see anybody talking about it.
One thing that we never really talk about is the 50-day moving average. And when a stock gets to a certain point above that 50-day, it's really difficult to think about buying it. And my rule of thumb is about 30% above. And granted, there's a lot of stocks that are higher than that right now, but you're better off in most cases waiting for this stock to pull back towards the 50-day.
So you're not looking at the stock unless it's at like 95 is what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. It's really difficult to start a position when a stock is this high.
And you're also kind of implying then if there's a sell-off, whether it's a month, a day, 6 months out, even if the stock runs up to 150, there's a good chance it can come back down to this 95 level.
Well, that $95 level is moving up each day that it stays above it.
I was going to say it's moved up about $20 in a week alone, about a month.
Yeah, well, the further a stock is above it, the quicker that 50-day moves higher.
For sure.
It's math. I mean, even Apple trading at 131, the 50-day is 103.88, and that's something to really keep in mind.
Yeah, that's why I haven't looked at Twilio since I got out of it in the 40s, just because I was done with that stock. But that's another one that I'm just looking at for the first time in a while right now, their chart, and it looks interesting.
And to bring it all into perspective, Tesla, the 50-day is $307 right now. So it's so far above it that gravity pulls these down, even if they're great companies at some point. Now, it may not come down to the 50 till the 50-day moves up to 400, which could happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down at some point.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on the Twilio chart, TWLO?
See, this is more interesting because it actually came down to the 50-day.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about that only a week ago.
And bounced right off of it.
Yeah. That's if you're watching charting and you see a stock come down to a 50-day and there's other things to look at. The 50-day should be above the 200-day before it has a significant an effect on it. But you will see that bounce. And the 50-day is above the 200-day since sometime in May is when it crossed over.
So is this one of those stocks where you only buy it if it passes the all-time highs based on ranges then? Or
yeah, I mean, Twilio is, it's not that much above the 50-day now where you would stay away from it. But to look at this chart and say, okay, where do I buy it? You almost need a new high to make you feel comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If it doesn't make a new high, you could basically look at that chart and think it may be forming a head and shoulders.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. And last thing is, I know I brought them up yesterday, but will be interesting to keep an eye on later. They briefly dipped below 4, but immediately came right back above them. I still think that there's probably a lot of support.
Tell them to cut us a check if they want us talking about them. We're not giving them branding.
Well, I'm just talking about for a trade. You could probably.
By the way, look at the 50-day on waiter.
Probably collect 1% on that stock all day with the way it moves. It's below it now. Is that
just below it though? I mean, you could make a case that it may bounce off it.
I'm telling you, you could play this stock with a really, really tight stop limit and $4 to $4.10 back and forth. Yesterday it dipped below $4, but it was very briefly and was met with. And look, it's been really, really small volume, so you could see a volume spike. It wouldn't shock me if the stock gets above 6 at some point. So, all right, ending on that.